Welcome to Movement Monday here on Heart of a Volunteer Veterans Podcast with your host, Daniel Hurd. Dan has been cycling one pedal at a time through 44 of the lower 48 states, 17,600 miles, and thousands of engagements to break the stigma of suicide. Dan's journey was halted when he was struck by a vehicle on a lonely Arizona road. Dan's mission hasn't ended, it continues. One step at a time, one episode at a time. Join Dan as he engages in conversations with guests that are on their own movement to influence positive change and bring hope. Again, welcome and enjoy the episode.
How's it going, everyone? It's another great day, and welcome to Movement Monday. I'm your host, Dan. Everyone, this was my first interview that I did for Movement Monday, and I'm thankful that it was with a friend from the road. His name is Caicedo, and he's a friend that has become more like a brother. He's on a mission to grow and learn about himself and the importance of life in the most basic form. Wake up, bike, eat, sleep, repeat. Stay tuned as we talk about the inspiration, the changes, the connections, and the road ahead. Here's the conversation that we had. Alex, I just want to say welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here right now.
Right on, brother. So good to see you.
You know, it's kind of crazy. You saw me the last time you saw me physically. We were riding apart from each other. You were there sub-physically after my accident. And now you get to see me out of the hospital and see me in a different light. What's that thought process going through your head?
I mean, yeah, man, it was so weird getting that news of the accident that happened, because I just remember that night before, you know, we were on such a high, like we were camping at the KOA. There was like, man, there must have been like 10 people at that campsite, and we were all just like having a good time and talking to each other. And I just remember thinking like, man, this is like such an epic send-off for Dan, you know. And then we got to, you know, Arizona, and I was like, I just got to ride through State 44 with Dan. That's awesome. You know, and then we split up and we still kept in touch, and that was great. And then getting that news was just like such a heartbreaker, you know, a few days ago. It's like, man, like everybody was there. Then we all left him, you know, and then that happened. It was like a super bummer, but it was good keeping in touch with you, though, over the phone, you know, and seeing the videos and stuff. But nothing's as good as seeing you right here in person, looking much better than that first picture that you ever sent me. I just, that broke my heart, man. I can't even tell you how I felt that day when I saw that. But then, you know, seeing you persevere and just knowing your spirit, like I knew you were going to get past it. And yeah, man, I'm so happy and excited to see you up here walking around and recovering, and definitely as I describe you to people, half glass half full kind of guy. So it's great.
Well, brother, I really appreciate that. And you know, for me, you knew that I was never going to get knocked down completely. I'm a little bit slower than I was then, and I was already slow then. So for me, it's a pleasure to have you back, and it's an honor that you came and visited me. You know, a lot of people I tell, once we get to know each other, we become friends, we become family. And I look just like that for you as a brother for me now. So I'm thankful that we have that connection. For sure. But for everybody that's listening, you know, they don't know how we kind of got together and how we built that brotherhood that we have. Let's talk about like what the journey you're on now, and you know, what that journey was actually supposed to be. So let's start with that. Let's start with, what was this journey supposed to be for you originally?
Sure, yeah. So back in 2018, I did my first tour. I rode from Virginia to California. That was about 69 days exactly is what it took. And I mean, I loved it. My work actually ended up giving me those 3 months off. So then I went back to work. I just like tried to concentrate on what I was doing, but there was really no going back to it after that. So from that point, and I think it was March of 2019, I started planning a trip for 2 years, 6 continents is what I wanted. So that's what I started doing. I sold everything I owned. I moved in with some roommates to save money. I didn't do it. I mean, the amount of savings I did was just like super in depth. And yeah, as time then the year went by, I hit the budget that I wanted to. I bought my ticket to Scotland in January. Then in March, I handed in my notice to work. I told them what I was doing. They're like, "Hey, man, no worries, good to go." And April came around, and everything got shut down. And
Before we get into that,
yeah,
because I know that that's definitely a huge changer for your journey that you had planned.
yeah,
I kind of want to take a step back between your first tour that you did and planning the second tour.
oh, right on.
Like, what was it that really about the traveling on a bicycle that, you know, you get done for the bike ride, you went back to work, you get back into the daily grind of things. Like, what was the turning point where you're like, man, I got to get back on the road? What was it that got you to that idea of like, I got to do this again?
Man, just it's hard to explain. Just like the unfinished business, I think that was on the road. You know, you just think of all the things that you didn't do right, that you could have done better. You know, it's like, man, there was that time I stayed in a motel rather than found a spot to camp. It's like, man, I should have done that better. It's like, man, you know, I rode by, you know, that national park. You know, I went through Utah and I skipped, was it Bryce Canyon? I was riding up the mountain pass, and I had no service. It was freezing. There were no cars. I went to a campsite and it was closed down. I was just like, man, I can't do this. I don't even know where I'm going to stay. And I turned around and went back into the town. And I was like, man, you know, I could definitely finish that this time. You know, I was like, I could have gotten more miles, you know, this, that. And, yeah, it was just like all this. And then you start following all these other people who are on their journeys, and you're like, man, I feel like I could do that, you know? And it's just so hard to like, you know, sit behind a desk and just think like, what if? And it's like, man, I can't do the what if anymore. It's like, I got to get back out there and just prove that I can do this, you know? And yeah, so glad I did.
Well, I'm glad you did too, because if you didn't do that, we wouldn't want to be sitting here right now having this conversation too. We would have never met up.
Right on.
So going back in, so we'll get back into what we were talking about. April, kind of things started going a little hectic.
Yeah.
What changed your journey? What changed in your journey because of the hecticness? Obviously, for everybody to understand, the reason why hecticness happened is COVID-19 kind of outbreaks started happening. They were shutting things down. They were closing borders. Mm-hmm. What was your plan at that initial point? Like, oh man, I can't go with my initial journey. Where are you going with that? Where are you going from there?
Yeah, you know, at first I was in denial. I was like, no, I'll totally be fine. Like, you know, my flight's at the end of April. It's like mid-March now. Everything will clear up. We're getting closer. I'm like, ooh, things are not clearing up. So that's like when you start working, it's like, I got to accept just kind of being where I'm at. And I had to go back into work, you know, asked to kind of stay on longer. Had to work on getting the canceling the flight to because all flights were canceled at that moment. So getting the refund there. You know, I already handed in notice to the place that I was living at, so now I had to find a new place to go to, but I didn't want it to be expensive because I'm still in money saving mode because I just refused to give up on this dream. Yeah, and then, well, long story short, you know, I stay in Raleigh where I was working at the time for 4 months, and then finally I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I had this dream, everything's ready. Things are slowly kind of getting better where I'm at, so I'm just going to pick up and start here in the States, and hopefully, like in the middle of the tour, a border will open up and I can hop on a plane and start that dream of, you know, 6 continents world tour kind of thing. So, you know, that's kind of where I led to after all the bad news and stuff happened.
All right. With all that bad news, obviously you had a mindset that you're just going to get started. You're going to go through some states and hope everything opened back up. Mm-hmm. So, at what point of the states that you were going in did you realize, like, man, I might not be able to leave this country for a while?
Yeah, so I got through Pennsylvania, and, you know, things just did not look good because I'm constantly, in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm going to ride around here for a couple months, then I'm going to cross into Mexico and do all of South America. And so I'm closely following the things in Mexico, and it's just every week it's like, you know, borders will remain closed until, you know, this date. But they have the option of extending the closure. We hit that date, closure extended. Hit the next date, closure extended. I'm like, this is not going to happen for me this year. So that's kind of when I was riding through Ohio at the time, And I met my first set of bicycle tours, and I was like so excited. You know, they pulled over to talk to me for like, we talked for like 20 minutes because Emily and Joe were their names, and they had just finished biking through their 49th state. They biked from New York to North Dakota to grab number 49. They were doing it in sections, so I think this took years. And they just came back and they told me about it. And then after we departed, I just remember thinking, 49 states, like, that's a hell of an achievement. I wonder if I could do that. And I started like, by that point, I had 12 states in the bag, and the way that my route was working, I was like, I bet I can knock out a bunch of these states as I go. So it just stayed in my head through Michigan. And then once I went to Wisconsin, I was like, all right, that Wisconsin took me about like 3 weeks. And by that time I was like, you know what? I'm not going anywhere for a very long time border wise. So let me get used to our country here. We got plenty of good things to offer, and let me see if I could start knocking out some states here. So that's about the time when I accepted it. And, you know, saying that I accepted it is like making it sound like this is this bad thing, but it's just another fun option. Yeah. To the plan that I had originally. So
absolutely. And that's the cool thing about, you know, we say accepted like a bad thing a lot of times, but really it's accepting the circumstances that we have at that moment.
Right on.
And sometimes even if you think that it could be worse off, like you're still being able to travel, you're still getting a lot of stuff accomplished. You're getting the ability to show people that, hey, just because my plan changed doesn't mean I can't still accomplish a lot of great things.
Absolutely.
So, you know, accepting it is part of, for anybody out there that is struggling with accepting of something, don't look at it as a bad thing. Always, you know, there's always a good thing to look at it in that sense as well. So, you know, with that being said, like, I know you and me started following each other, I think in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Tell me like when you heard about me, obviously you don't have to talk about the details of that, but like, I know that you weren't expecting me to follow you back, and that was something that, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, man, I just like, you know, I have like a couple of, you know, people that I follow who I like consider like, you know, professional tours, I guess, kind of thing, who like kind of got me into it. And somebody told me about this crazy dude who built this huge trailer, and he like showed me a picture. I didn't believe it. And then he showed me the picture. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, I got to follow this dude. And he's like riding through 49 states, and he's got this amazing cause for promoting suicide awareness. And I just like looking at all the pictures, I'm like, how's this guy doing this? I'm like, I look at the pictures like, that doesn't look, you know, aerodynamic friendly at all. He's going up these mountain passes. It's like this dude is like adding like more problems to like a hobby that has like plenty of problems with it already. So I was like, I got it. This dude is a glutton for suffering, and I gotta follow that, because that's like something that draws so many people to bike touring, I feel. So yeah. So I just figured, you know, you were just like another, you know, professional dude who I follow, who just like, I don't plan on this dude. I don't need this dude to follow me. I just want to follow all the stuff he's doing. And then when you gave me the follow, I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. Like, I got this crazy famous dude who's like trying to like look at me. It's like, that's crazy. And like never in a million years did I think we would meet. I was just like kind of content with like, you know, putting you at that mantle of people who I just kind of want to learn from and stuff. And yeah, so when I get to Colorado, and honestly, in the back of my head, I was always like, man, if I get close enough, I'll be brave enough to send him a message, because I never sent you a message. I don't know if you noticed that. It's just like, just kind of content hiding in the background with all the followers. And I was like, if I do get close enough, though, like days apart, I'll send him a message and be like, hey man, would it be okay if I like, you know, maybe, you know, if it's okay, you know, if I'd follow you for like a day or two or something. But then when you reached out when I was like a week away in Colorado, it's like, hey man, you gonna be close? I was like, hell yeah, man, I'll be right there. I'm coming. Just like wait for me. So that was extremely exciting, man. That was like a hero, just like reaching out. I was like, yeah, just come on a ride with me. So yeah, and I always say like, man, this dude was like a big, you know, like just like kind of like a big deal to me, like a folk legend or something. And I met him, and he was like everything that you thought, like super nice, super kind, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like just like a chill dude who loved what I loved, and we were able to share that passion, with each other. And it's just like, God, just like became a brother, just riding together all those days and really just enjoying the outdoors and stuff. So it's just crazy how it all happened. It shouldn't have all come together like that, but it really did.
Yeah, you know what, Alex? I'm glad I didn't wait for you to reach out to me, and that was something that I enjoyed because I actually enjoyed following your journey as well and seeing your progress, and going, man, this guy's going to catch up to me pretty quickly, even before you got to Colorado, and so when you finally got to like that point where you're like, man, we could potentially intersect. That's why I did, and I remember having your message me back and be like, yeah, it's going to take me about 9 days to get to the Bluff, where we were going to meet up. And, it was like, oh man, this dude's going to like have a shell shock. Like he's not going to realize that I'm not pedaling as hard as him. And you did it in 6 days. That was something else that I was shocked about. And I was like, dude, this dude is going to go from like 100-mile days to like 30. Which is totally fine, and I'm thankful that you were cool with that. But we were originally we're going to meet further south than where we did, and we ended up meeting up in Moab, Utah. And something that we were talking about before we started recording, and I wanted to talk about again is like we met up like when we were planning to finally meet up in Moab because I was kind of needing a few days off and had a few things going on. There was one rule that you asked for. There was one thing that you asked for, and it turned into something larger than that. But what was that thing that that you asked for? And then ultimately, what did we end up doing while we were in Moab?
Yeah, so when you reached out to me and told me to meet you there, I got super excited. And I was like, I'm going to be there as fast as I can. So I went some really heavy miles. I was like, man, I'm going to go some heavy miles in some short days. And like, so I just please, can I have 1 day off just to like rest the body before we like set out? And I knew you were staying there for a few days. So I was like, man, I don't know if this guy will take an extra day off. And you were like, yeah, sure, man. So I got there, and then like, I remember like 1 day became 2, and then 2 days became like, and I was like, all right, I guess I could do that. And then 2 became 3, and I was like, ugh, I don't usually take more than 2 days off. And like, I need a good reason for that. And then, 3 became 4. And then, by that point it's like, kind of enjoying this, and then it became 5 and so on. So but it was good because it wasn't like just sitting around doing nothing. We got to explore Moab, I feel like, the way it was supposed to be explored. So we did some hiking, found that, what was that, like that river or something in the falls, something.
Yeah,
that
Mill Creek Falls.
Yeah, that
was amazing.
That was a
Super
blast.
cold.
We met so many awesome people. Like, I mean, just so many cool fellow travelers, not all by bicycle, but, and yeah, I remember I told you were the second bicycle tour I ran into besides the 2 that I ran into in Ohio. And then we ended up meeting like 4 other tours. Yeah, 2 at the hostel, and then the one dude who biked from Montana, and he was going through Canyonlands or something. So I get to meet other tours and share stories, and then the big thing is that we rented mountain bikes and did a mountain bike trail that was like considered one of the best in all of Moab and one of the most intense. And both of us going in with like not at all enough experience and still getting to finish it was just, I mean, it was a blast. And then we added another day after that was unexpected. And then we went to the national park, of course. So yeah, that really changed things for me. That made me accept, kind of appreciating where I am and like not having to grind miles every day and count days off as like a bad thing. So it's just like, yeah, that was just a really, really good time that really shaped me for the future, I guess.
Yeah, and now you brought up our mountain biking experience. That was actually going to be my next question for you. We weren't planning on doing that. That was something that we got invited to by Sarah from the hostel, and for that experience to happen, we were kind of stressed out trying to figure out the bicycling opportunities, and thankfully the One Pedal at a Time movement actually jumped on board and provided us the bikes as long as I did some talking and education along the way as well, and thankfully I was able to do that, but. Like that mountain bike experience was pretty amazing. What do you think of that mountain bike experience? as you didn't expect to do it, like how meaningful was it to be able to actually be doing it, be part of it with me and with other people? How awesome was that?
I mean, it's like definitely one of the highlights of the entire trip. I rode through like 5 awesome states at that point, and that was just like one of the best things that I'll remember from all of it. And yeah, huge shout out to One Pedal at a Time, because it wouldn't have been possible without them. So I was super thankful about that. And man, just getting out of like something normal to you, like for us, it was just like, biking on the road all the time. And then now it's like, hey, we're going to shuttle you up like 10,000 feet. Then you got to ride up another 1,000 feet. And now you're just doing an 8,000 foot descent on these full suspension bikes on some of the craziest terrain you've ever done. It was just so foreign to me. And then I ended up crashing 5 times, like one of them being really bad. You remember I went down the step and like broke the shifter and hit my face off the rock. And I mean, but all of it, even that was just like so fun and such a blast to me, because it was just like this new way of like appreciating the bicycle, which I've already like come to love. And yeah, man, that was just, I don't know, how long did that take? It was like 8 hours. That was like some of the funnest 8 hours of just pain and torture that I've ever had. And it was just so great, man. Yeah.
Awesome. It definitely, it was a lot of awesomeness that happened that day. And honestly, so everybody else knows, I also crashed. I crashed twice. And one of them was kind of like a crash, but not really a crash. It was that 4-foot jump that I hit, if you remember that one.
Oh, I remember. I recorded it and everything.
There was the one where I landed it, but I washed out as soon as I landed. And I got some good road rash, or rock rash, if you want to call it, from that accident. But overall, we both did an amazing job. And thankfully that Sarah that we were able to join, all 3 of us did a great time, and it had a great opportunity for us.
Yeah. I was totally worried at first, because I was like, man, this is like so out of our realm. We're not used to this kind of thing. But in my mind, I was like, I know we'll finish, because, we're used to being out in the sun and having to work all day. I just don't know if it's going to be enjoyable. And then like that first descent in, it's like, man, this is like, I feel like we were made for this kind of stuff. And, I was so used to like riding down these mountain bike trails on our touring rigs, like that you're not supposed to be doing it with at all. And then you're given this like $6,000 bike that was like meant to do it, and it just changed everything. And it was such a blast. Definitely something I could see in my future for sure. Thanks to that, that one day of riding it is just such a blast.
And no, I absolutely agree. I never did. That was my first time on a mountain bike, as you know. But for the listeners not knowing that was my first time being on a mountain bike, on a full suspension bike, doing my first mountain bike like trail. So there was a lot of firsts for me. And as I told you guys before I started, kind of the same concerns, like slowing you guys down and not being able to keep up, or even potentially in my mind, setting myself up for not being able to finish. And to be able to get on that and to get the confidence within that first downhill and getting the experience that I got, like thankfully I had experience from dirt biking as a child and as a teenager. So all those different things kind of helped it play into this factor of doing well on it. But dude, I honestly think after I'm done touring, I'm going to be a downhill mountain biker.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would have never known if we didn't do that experience. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Leading off that, so we got off the bikes, we did our mountain biking experience, we got back on the road, and this was where things kind of started out, slower pace than what we were dealing with for those days off, and when I say slower pace, hanging out waiting for Dan to catch up, and so that's the part that I mean by slower pace, and I had told you up at front before you even came to see me, like, hey man, I'm slower, I'm doing on average 25 to 40 miles a day with this camper. I take a lot of breaks, stuff that I knew you did, but not as lengthy as I did. And so how was it, going from the pace that you were at before you met up with me at Moab to when we left Moab finally, that difference in setups that we had, your bike setup with you, without you on it, it's just about 100 pounds with all your food and your bike weight roughly.
Yeah.
Where compared to mine was about 340 pounds. How did that did that change your mindset on your speed and your mobility of doing things in the pace that you set yourself out because you knew you were going at a slower pace with me? How did that affect you?
I mean, yeah, I kind of, in my mind, I was just like, these are going to be easier days for me. So it's not too bad, consume less calories, work less. But at the same time, I get to ride with this, awesome dude. So like in the end, it's really all worth it. So it's just nice to be able to, not just, have somebody to ride with, but also like somebody who kind of appreciates all the stuff of bike touring, like you did. So, around that time, I started like, accepting like, man, it's not really about the miles and like the timing and all that. I'm not breaking any records out here. I'm just here to enjoy the outdoors. And if you got like a, fellow, brother to enjoy them with, like even better. So I had like no problem with like biking up a hill and wait, I'd be at the top of the hill and I'd be waiting and, I got no problem with laying down, taking a quick nap or, catching up on a podcast or something or playing cameraman, waiting for you to get up the hill so I can get some cool shots of you carrying that 350. That's the thing. Like, I got to get people to believe. Like, I'll tell people, it's like, hey, man, I'm riding with this dude. He's carrying a 350-pound trailer. And like, what? There's no way. I was like, just wait for the pictures to come in and stuff. And I remember like one buddy's like, who is that dude carrying a camper? I don't understand. So
yeah, actually, I remember seeing that comment as well on social media. It was like, why?
Yeah.
Why is this necessary? And again, so, for all those experiences, I tell people all the time, I was carrying all those burdens, just like a human being carries burdens in life. And, that's the weight that we carry. It doesn't have to always be heavy. Thankfully, I try to do things at an extreme, but, what was something else that, from while I was riding with you and you saw how I handled business, I talked to everybody. It's something that I went out of my way to do a lot of times, and I did it for reasons and purposes. But from seeing those aspects of how the journey kind of plays out, like we were talking about the finding places to stay at night, just knowing that it'll work out without knowing that it's going to work out. How did you handle those situations that we dealt with? And also like the people that we interacted with, like, did you expect a lot of those interactions to play out in the way they did or anything like that effect? You can answer it however you want.
Yeah. So I'll start with the people thing. I do like stopping to talk to people, but I don't like doing it for a long amount of time because, I'm always like, I got to get going, I got to hit this miles, yada, yada. But, then I would always see, you literally stop and talk to everybody. You would share your story. And, at first I was like, man, it's taking time. But then I would see like people, it's crazy, like just have people be like, you know what, I went through the same thing. And then that's you like trying to like really help out. It's like, man, I can't believe how many people have either gone through or knew somebody that went through this. And then, that's like when you explain to me, it's like, I always say hi to everybody. I always try to have a conversation because you never know if you're going to cross that person who needs to hear your story. Right. And then that's when like you kind of, I don't want to say go to work, but that's like when you, really get in depth about the stuff and try to like explain like how things can get better and all this stuff. And it was just like really, it's just like such an old school way of like, getting your point across. Everybody's like trying to just like, throw everything on social media or all this kind of stuff, but you're out there like doing it like person to person, which, I just thought was really great. And I like really came to appreciate like how just a simple hi or a wave like can really just like help somebody out. And, like, oh man, there's like that guy that we met at the campsite who like really had some, really went through some issues with suicide. And, man, it's just like, what if he didn't camp there and didn't meet this guy who's like trying to like prevent suicide or spread suicide awareness and just like going through all like, it's just like, just crazy how it happened like that. So it was just, I really came to appreciate just like, the more conversation than just a simple hi to a stranger, just kind of going in depth and sharing your story. So that was, I didn't really mind the amount of time we were losing on stuff like that for sure. I really came to appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you did. And with that being said, because you got to see it so often, have you taken any of that and maybe said hello to people that you probably may not have before that, or even had a simple conversation?
I do waves now all the time. So just I'll see like just people like walking on the sidewalk or whatever, just always a wave. I've gotten into a lot of conversations. I don't know if you've seen like pictures since we departed, like just reading random people on mostly a lot of times on Route 66. You know, I just met like an older couple. We probably talked for like 15. That was a day I had to go 90 miles. And I crossed the state border, so I had to take a lot of time to, you know, grab pictures of this. You know, I have to get the welcome to state signs. But I still took 20 minutes to talk to this couple. And, you know, just like, you know, they were just so refreshing, just like saying that we're kind of doing the same thing. We're trying to get out there and explore like you, because our plans were canceled. And taking time to like talk to people and have like longer conversations than just a simple hi. All right, I got to go. See ya. Yeah, definitely something I carried with me. And always the wave, man. I remember that. Always wave. When we're riding, you can't always stop, so you just at least wave to let them know that, hey, I see you, and just hope you're having a good one.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I've always encouraged. And even people going by in a car, if I can see them in their car, you know, unfortunately with people that have these super tinted things going on, you can't really tell. But yeah, you know, it's something that I encourage people to do is, you know, acknowledge people's existence. Even if you don't plan on having a further conversation, at least say hello.
Right. That could be a huge impact, like big impact. And I saw it firsthand. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, so with that being said, you know, obviously you picked that up from our experiences together, but what other things that did you take from our time together on the road? What was it that, you know, anything that I did in particular, or different series of things that I did that, you know, man, that's going to work out for me later on?
Yeah. The biggest thing I think, you know, is cooking. Like, so that was always just a really hard thing for me to do. Cooking healthily, I should probably say. I had my own stove and stuff, but I would just like grab some instant rice, throw a can of like, you know, greens in there, like either green spinach, like canned stuff, just throw that in there to act like I'm being healthy. And then, you know, just down all of that with like a bag of chips or something like that, just to get extra calories in. And then and then that first day you're like, hey man, I got a bunch of cured meats, and you pulled out like 5, you know, cured meats, and then a bag of potatoes, and then like a bag of onions. I was like, what? It's like, how are you going to cook this for one? And why are you carrying this weight? And then that first night when we camped at the BLM, and you made this like homemade delicious, it was a rice chicken. No, it was a sausage and rice. And it had raw vegetables in it. It had onions and zucchini and carrots. I was like, you can do this. You can actually make this work. This is like a real meal, not instant, you know, crap that I've been eating for all this time. And that was like 5 straight days of it. So, and then that pasta that we had,
that loaded pasta that we had at the KOA, that thing could have fed an army, man.
Yeah, that was just on point. And ever since then after our departure and I went back to it on my own, man, I would just my grocery list at the grocery store would always be funny. It'd be like a single potato, a single piece of zucchini, you know, a bag of rice, and like, you know, some type of cured sausage or meat or something like that. And the first time I made it, I was like, it's not as good as how Dan made it, but this is really good. And I know I'm getting some like really good stuff out of it. So that was like a staple for me. A huge, you know, big thing after we departed was being able to like shop on my own and like cook like real food. Like I said, I did cook before, but it was just like instant. Yeah. I just never in my mind thought raw vegetables could make their way into a bicycle tour's diet that you're making yourself on a camp stove. But it sure as hell has now. I can tell you that.
That's awesome. Is there anything else, or was that the 2 key points? Obviously, interaction with people and the food. Is there anything else that kind of stuck out to you that you maybe aren't using yet, but maybe we'll see yourself doing at the end at some point? Because something I do know and that the listeners don't know at this moment is that you're not doing this for a cause. You're not doing this for a purpose of particularly other than for your own well-being and for your own sanity. But what is something that could potentially happen if you thought about like, is there an opportunity for a cause to come out of this at some point?
For sure. I mean, when I first started, I've always met people that are riding for a cause, and I just always was so envious of that. To ride for something rather than just yourself. It seems pretty selfish to just like getting out there and like doing all this and not being able to promote anything. I just never was good at like building something to promote. You know what I mean? And having like a cause that I like knew of. So yeah, getting to see you like ride and get to explain this and just like kind of promote this cause and get the word out about something that you're super passionate about, and I think something that everybody can get behind. Getting to see that just made me realize, man, I wish it really just like brought it, because all the like the big cyclists I follow, they all had their own causes too. And, it's just having something to like, something to support while you're out there living this dream, it just seems kind of selfish in this day and age, and to have something to like ride for, is definitely something I would love to do in the future for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, man, Alex, it's been, first I want to say how awesome it's been to have you here and to be able to do this with you. But I have one last question that I really want to ask you. It kind of, this may be something I should have asked earlier, but it kind of fits to the end of this. And that's, anybody that does any type of traveling, doesn't matter if it's on a bicycle or in a van, there's always a point to where you're like, man, I don't know if this is for me. At what point did you get to that? I could give up at this point, or I want to give up. And what led you not to giving up?
Man, I'd say it was like day 5-ish into my first tour, where like my body was not used to consecutive days of riding like this. Like the first day, I think it was like 45 miles, and my body's like, oh, that was rough, but all right, that's fine. And then the second day, you're getting up, and it's like, really? We're going to do this again for a consecutive day? And then a third day, and it's just like I wasn't used to consuming that amount of calories either, and carrying this weight. And this was starting in Virginia, where it was just all the mountains. And by that point, I was just like physically like, I can't do this. Like I was dumb for thinking that I can do something. And when you're suffering like that physically, it's hard to appreciate, the stuff that we love about touring right now, like seeing new places, meeting new people, all that stuff. So at the time, I was just physically suffering. So I remember like I used to go into grocery stores and I used to lock my bike up, but at this moment in time, I wouldn't even lock it up. I was honestly like hoping somebody would steal it so that I can go home, because I wanted to go home at that point. But the only thing keeping me from going home was the embarrassment of returning to all these people being like, oh, I thought you were going to ride across the country and you didn't even make it out of Virginia. It's sad to say, but that's what kept me going. Just the shame of returning as a failure. So I would just like keep moving and moving, and then like eventually though, like your body finally gets used. If you can make it past that point, and a lot of people get there, and sadly they don't make it. But if you get past that point, and anybody can do it, seriously, then physically everything just makes sense. It's like, wow, okay, now I know what we're doing. Then you can get in your routine, and that's when you really start like appreciating all the stuff that you're seeing out there on the bike. Whether it's meeting new people, whether it's meeting fellow tours, whether it's getting into places that you never thought you would be, like camping in a park or camping near a river in the middle of nowhere, enjoying a meal in a town with population 100 where everyone's walking up to you. I was just like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, that's so cool. It's getting past that physical wall in the beginning, I think, is like the biggest hurdle. But it's and like I said, anybody can get past it.
It's a mindset,
and
determination. That's two huge things that you need. And like I said, I totally can relate because I've gone through the same thing. Mm-hmm. We go through it in our own ways, in our own times, but it's something that we all go through. And it's just a matter of, one, if you don't bring it up to people, nobody's going to know about it. So bring it up. Tell people that you're struggling with it, right? But never give up. That's the biggest outcome of this experience for both of our stories is never give up. Keep going. With that being said, Alex, we're going to wrap it up here. But before we do, I want people to know how to get a hold of you. How can people find you on social media? Where can they connect with you to follow your journey? What's the sources that we can use to get a hold of you?
The Instagram, my handle is at bum on 2 wheels. That's the number 2, all one word, bum on 2 wheels. I guess that's really, Facebook is my name, Alex Caicedo, based out of Raleigh. There's a couple of us, so it's the one based out of Raleigh, but.
And with that being said, guys, we'll definitely make sure we have the correct ones in the links below.
Yeah.
And then do you have any final closing statement or message that you would love the listeners to know or hear about, what you're doing or adventuring in general? Anything that you want to share with the listeners now?
Just that if you have any inkling of passion to go out and do something like this, just head out and do it. I remember before my first ride, I had the list of things I've never done before was a mile long. Never biked more than 50 miles. Never climbed more than 1,000 feet, never camped by myself, never camped in a tent, the list goes on forever. But you slowly work up and you're able to do all these things. And now I have this passion that I never would have even dreamt about if you said that like 5 years ago. So yeah, if there's anything that you even think that you might really come to love, just head out and do it. Start small, see if you love it. And I'm telling, I know everybody says this who does this. Anybody can do this. It's not, you don't need to be Lance Armstrong in his prime or just some 5-star athlete or anything. If you take a look at me, I'm not anything from a physical standpoint, like a physical specimen. It's just, I'm just getting out there, loving what I do, going slow and taking my time. So anybody can do it.
I love it, Alex. I do. And that's the thing. Everybody and anybody can do it. With that being said, Alex, continue on your journey safe and hopefully you have a tailwind. As I know, that's never true.
Yeah.
But we can hope, right? Wow, what a great first guest with a 30-minute notice at that. The friendship Alex and I developed came together because of a movement of self-awareness and a bicycle. So many of us are living a movement already and are not even aware of the impact we are leaving along the way. I wish Alex the best going forward, and I hope our paths cross again. Be ready for next Monday. We have a great episode planned with a Gold Star mother, Leanne Forsyth. We discuss her role in American Gold Star mothers and the services they provide. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and have an amazing week, everyone.
Copyright Heart of a Volunteer 2020.